All right, everybody. It's me. It's triple. Oh, wait a minute. No, it ain't. This is Rowdy Player One. Welcome to Insert More Coins with got a fantastic author here tonight, Mr. Dave Lawson, with his book, The Authors, or sorry, The Envoys of War. And how you
I
doing,
should have
Dave?
called it the Authors of War.
Yeah, there you go. How's it going?
Good. I was telling Rowdy a second ago, I'll tell everyone in the live chat as well. Just got home a few minutes ago, so it is completely my fault that things got pushed back 30 minutes because some of you might know, I am a theater director. I direct the plays at my high school, and we have regionals on Tuesday, and we have a performance tomorrow for like the parents and everything. And so today was our dress rehearsal, and I usually get out by 5, and I did not get out until like 5:45 today because I was doing all of the things. So completely my fault. I accept all all censure. Please don't send anything toward Rowdy. He was ready to go. He was at his computer, actually, just like sitting there and
I've been here for
waiting.
3 hours.
Just like, and I was the problem. As normal, I was the problem. So it's all my fault.
All right. Well, let's see. We got Keith or Kenneth. Sorry.
Kenneth,
What's
Kenneth,
going
the man
on?
himself, Mr. Big Bird.
Yeah. Alex is here. What's going on, Alex? Some other character. How's it going? Oh, my brother even showed up. What's up, Josh? And yeah, Faceless Book Reviews. Oh.
Plus
Well,
one.
so you want to talk about your book? What inspired you for it?
We can talk about Blackstones, but
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, let's talk about the book. That's what we're here for.
Yep. So, what inspired you to write it?
So, by the way, this is the book.
That's right. That's right. I got
this
my
is
copy.
The hardcover.
That's what I want.
Hardcover is a little bit bigger. Rowdy just has the paperback. But I just got all those books in the other day. Very exciting. And so I have a box of books behind this computer, and they're just like sitting over there. And I need to ship them out at some point, but I have not been home to do that. So The Envoys of War is a fantasy adventure novel with lots of witty characters, plans, schemes, characters arguing. And it's just really, I think it's a lot of fun. And it's the kind of book that has some really lovable characters that spend a lot of time bantering and bickering and trying to figure out how to solve the problems they're facing. And so I actually wrote the book, started out with a D&D campaign, as many fantasy novels do. And I had written a short story about one of the characters in the D&D campaign. And just a fun little short story about the barbarian who was this. She's still, her name is Yuka. She's kind of like a fun-loving barbarian who just likes to go around with her axe and fight, and she likes animals. And so I started to write this little thing about that, and I wrote a few pages, and I didn't do anything with it. And then I went back a little bit later and thought I could actually turn this into something, but I don't want to write it in the D&D world with all of this. I don't want it to actually be about that character because... Is my audio cutting out?
It's not on my end.
Oh. I don't actually want that character to be the one, because like I'd have to then be writing this entire book about a character that someone else created in the D&D game. So I changed everything, took out most of the stuff. I kept like basically half of a scene, really just the fighting the spider. So
Yes.
that bit, right, and I expanded quite a bit on it, but like in the original short story, Yuka the Barbarian fought a spider. Um, and that's really the only thing that stayed from that. But then I wrote a completely new story from the beginning and just had so much fun writing it. Wrote the entire first draft in about 2 months, and then
That's crazy.
a bunch of read throughs, beta readers, editors, revisions, and it became the novel that it is today, which I feel like is a lot of fun. So
Yeah. I really like it. I was very, very pleased. Like the pace of it, I felt was really good. Like it would, like whenever it slowed down, it wasn't even for long at all. Like it was basically just to have a little conversation and then it's right back to the action. I thought it was great on that wise, and I love Corden. He is awesome.
see, Corden is
Yes,
my favorite.
yeah,
And what I get is this there's people who are like, oh, I couldn't stand Corden. My wife, who's in the other room right now, I am vindicated at the moment
yes,
because she was
yes.
like, Corden's annoying. Why do you? And then I've had other people like, oh God, Corden. And I'm like, Corden is the greatest. I love him
Yeah,
so much. He's my favorite. And
yeah,
then Audrey Hopper, who's in the chat right now,
yeah.
is a Tobias lover. She loves Tobias, like he's her favorite character. She was one of my beta readers who basically took on like a developmental editing role because she spent so much time with the story, and she's actually working toward now getting like taking classes to be a full-time, or not a full-time, but a freelance developmental editor. So she has spent a lot of time with the story, but she's wrong in that she thinks Tobias is better than Corden. Because Corden, for those of you who have not read the book, there are basically three main characters. There is Jen, who is a big swordswoman. She carries a great sword, and she is kind of a fun-loving person in that she likes animals and she wants to have friends and sort of spend time with their friends, but then also she kills anyone that she feels like is a threat to her or her friends. So she can have a conversation. She's more of a woman of action. And then her best friend and her fellow envoy is Corden. And Corden is the exact opposite. Corden only wants to have conversations. He is witty and maybe a little bit overly impressed with himself and his own wit, and he makes his plans just go on and on and on, and they are more complicated than they need to be, but they're a lot of fun in that like overcomplicatedness. But so they are working together. And then there's also Tobias, who is a broody mage who has revenge on his mind. And so he spends a lot of the novel being broody and wanting revenge. And so for the more the people who want that more broody character, Tobias is the one that they tend to go for. So like Audrey loves a broody dude. My wife loves a broody dude. I'll tell a story about my wife and dragon shifters here in a few minutes. We'll come
yeah,
back to that one.
yeah.
But basically, it is a novel with three main characters. Jen and Corden are kind of the my two main characters, but Tobias is one as well. He's also a POV character, and just a lot of fun, a lot of shenanigans, and Corden is the best.
Yes, yes. I also love the what was it? The name that Jen gives all of the animals. Is that Francois?
Francois.
Is that yes, yes?
Yes.
I love that. And then
I
the
mean,
wolves.
the thing about any animal in a fantasy novel is that it deserves to be a pet with a name like Francois. So,
Yeah,
like Jen, when she goes around, each animal she finds, they're just, yes, they are animals, but they're also Francois.
yeah.
She's picked a name, and that is the name that she is going to give to her new best friend. So, just Tobias is Brad Pitt, DeCorden's Ed Norton.
Okay.
Is that a Fight Club reference? I
I could
think it
see that.
is. I feel like I
Yeah.
think Ed Norton and Brad Pitt were in Fight Club.
Yes.
Um, it's been a long time since I've seen that one, but Corden thinks that he's probably handsomer than Brad Pitt. I don't know.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. The way he talks, there's yeah. That is for sure. The what was I going to say? The what's the guy's? Is it Cork? The one
Cork.
that Jorn, yeah, that Jen meets later on.
Yes.
He reminds me of like I guess kind of like a super jock in school when if you're like a where he's he can like do anything, destroy anybody, but then he's halfway kind of got a nice personality. It's kind of I like
So
that.
Cork is another one of my favorites. Cork is actually the main character of my prequel novella that I'm currently
Okay.
working on. And so that takes place with him 12 years previously. He's the only character from that was in Envoys. But
Okay.
he's kind of that character who is also like Jen, very big, strong, powerful, but also just kind of like he enjoys some ale and a good time and hanging out with people. And so like he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And he has a full mouth of teeth because of Audrey.
Okay.
In the original beta draft, he had 4 teeth. And Audrey in one of her comments said, "No, Dave. The 7-foot tall hot guy can't have 4 teeth.
Yeah.
He needs to be hot. Give him teeth."
Yeah.
And
No,
so I think I'd already had like 3 other minor characters that had a bunch of missing teeth, and it just kind of became like I think someone else said something like, "You're oddly obsessed with their teeth," and so I was like, okay, maybe I will take out some of the teeth things because I am probably describing too many characters not having enough teeth. And I mean, maybe dental practices aren't great in the continent of Sarikon, but they might not be that bad.
yeah. I go back to the you said that was it Jen or Corden that you made the D&D character out of?
So Jen was based on my friend Allie's D&D character,
Okay.
who was a barbarian.
How long have y'all been playing D&D together?
So Audrey, who's here, she's also in the D&D group.
Mm.
We probably started in April of 2023.
Okay.
So like I wrote that short story in November of 2023.
Okay.
And then I wrote the first draft in January and February of this year. Just like it was the only thing I did. I went to work, I came home, I wrote. And
Oh
then
wow.
March and April was betas and revisions, then more read-throughs and revisions. And then at the end of May, it went off to an editor for a while, and then more revisions, back to
Yeah.
the editor, more revisions, and then so like basically some people have like the first novel that has been their baby for like I've been writing this since I was 18 and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
finally publishing it, and I already did that. I published a novella in like 2018 that was my master's thesis for fiction writing, and it was not fantasy at all. It was a like contemporary fiction novel about like a girl in New York City, and
Okay.
it I mean, I like it because I wrote it and I spent a lot of time on it whenever I was in
Yeah.
my early 20s when I wrote it. But then I didn't do anything with it for a long time. And then kind of in like 2017, I thought I'm going to go back and like actually finish it off and then just put it out there so I can say it is out there.
Yeah.
But I didn't really ever market it or try to make it be anything. It was just like, I wrote this thing, it's out there. And with this, I actually am like, I wrote this and I want people to read it and I want it to be out there and I'm trying to market it and all the things to where this is the first time I've actually like spent the time and effort trying to do all of the aspects of it beyond just like, I wrote this. Some people read it and then I wrote it and then I edited it and then I published it. Now I'm like, I'm actually trying to do all the steps for actual book publishing.
That's cool.
Lamia.
What's going on? I seen her book is in what arc form too, and it
Yeah,
looks
it
huge.
is a chonker. I've got it in my other room, and basically it tried to break the bookshelf.
Yeah.
It's trying to eat some of the other books on the bookshelf. It's just like triple the size of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a monster. But you writing this for, I mean, even for 400 pages in just a couple of months. I mean, that's impressive to me.
I had like a schedule,
Yeah.
and I wrote at least 10,000 words a week.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so, you know, my first draft was 91,000 words.
Okay.
And I did that in January and February. And
Yeah.
then after different beta revisions and other revisions, and I sent it out to betas after a second to third-ish draft.
Mhm.
And then more. It ended up getting to, I think the beta draft was at like 99,000. And then the actual published version is at 107.5 thousand. So like
Okay.
I still added on a decent amount.
Yeah.
Added in a lot of the ending. In the earlier drafts was a lot faster and it wasn't as like fleshed out. And
That's
so
good. The
I
ending to
spent
me,
more time trying to get the ending, like writing more into it.
it's got like, what would you say, like three different arcs sort of that you could follow whenever
Right.
for the next book, or how many are you planning to do, two or three or
So it's kind of up in the air because it's not really it's not your traditional trilogy or something where like the first book is the first part and then the second
okay.
part takes it to the next part and then the third book like is the final epic conclusion. It's more like Lamia, I've barely written anything. I burnt myself out a little bit. But I need to finish this novella and then I'll be working on book 2.
So like, let's
But
go, let's go.
but basically the story is kind of a self-contained story in terms of like the plot. The main conflict and plot of book 1 is within book 1, and I
Yeah.
do have some leads of like what book 2 is going to be about at the end of it, but it's kind of a different story. So like same characters, but now there's a new thing. And kind of like an author that I like, who I feel like does a good job with this, is Michael J. Sullivan. The Riria Chronicles books, among like with Royce and Hadrian, where like each one was a self-contained story in terms of like the plot of that book, but there were
Okay.
threads that connected into like the series as a whole.
Okay.
So I'm not really writing each book like this is leading to the next book, which has this important thing. More like I'm telling this story with these characters. And so like I could write 3, I could write 7. Like I don't
That's
have
cool.
a set number because it's more just kind of like each one is a different mission of sorts or a different quest with these characters doing something.
Okay. Say, Alex, am I the only slow reader around here, man? No, I am very, very slow at reading. Like, I'm doing good if I can do 50 pages a day. Like, which I don't know if you went back and seen, but like, I don't say new to reading, but as far as reading at all, yes. Like, I did not start reading any. I hated reading forever. Like, I'm a video game guy, and in January of this year, I got completely burnt out of it and didn't have nothing to do. And I was like, we homeschool our kids. So we were at a homeschool convention, and I picked up a couple of books, and I was like, I'm going to try one out just to see, and started from there. And now I think I've read like 37 or 38 books now this year. And I was, and that proceeded as like, I wonder if YouTube has anybody that like just started reading that in a later age, which obviously I'm 40 today, so super old for that. And so I was like, that's kind of cool. I'll try it and make one. And it's been fun. I've loved it. Like I never thought like even getting to do this like interview has been awesome. Like I have like 2 goals of YouTube total. It was to get to talk to somebody, just about books, because everyone around me doesn't care. I mean, they don't care about fantasy, just how it is, and sci-fi. And the other one was actually getting to do interviews. So that
Yeah.
was the only 2 things I cared about.
Well,
And
I
that was
am
great.
very honored to be the first interview
You are the
on your
first.
birthday, 40th birthday. I'm 39. I'll be
It's like
turning
you're right
40
behind me,
in
ain't you?
April, so I'm getting there. And I'm publishing the first novel at
Yeah,
39. So us slightly old dogs can
yeah,
still learn some new tricks. Um,
no doubt.
but yeah, I think Alex Alex is actually a fast reader. I think he said he's a slow writer.
Oh, he
But
did. My bad.
Alex can churn through a book. It depends on the week. Like there are some weeks where I get, I read 2 books in a week, and other weeks where
Yeah,
have read 15 pages because I've just been like this
yeah.
week. I'm reading a really good book that I enjoy by one of my friends. A Promise of Blood by R.A. Sandpiper. It's great. I'm like almost halfway through it now, but man, it's taken me a week and a half to get
Yeah.
160 pages done because I've been doing so much with drama and everything that I rarely have actually had time to read.
She the one that the was Amazon like dropped her second book or something? That
So yeah, all of her pre-orders got canceled.
that's crazy.
But here's hoping that doesn't happen for me.
Yeah.
I don't have it. She had 69 pre-orders. I think I
Man.
have 42, but only 23 of them are through Amazon. The other 19 are all physical
Yeah.
copies.
Which
So
that's better for you, is it not, than
yeah, I
buying
make more
pre-order?
money off of the physical
Yeah.
copies.
Yeah.
But if you want anyone out there in this world, if you want to pre-order copies, hardcover, paperback, you can order these on my website.
All right. I am going to order the hardcover tonight or tomorrow one, because you didn't sign this. That's not nice.
So that one I think just came straight from
Yeah.
Amazon because I was still waiting. Like I'd already ordered these copies and they were just taking forever and they hadn't arrived yet. And I'd sent out the few copies I had, but I didn't
Yeah.
have enough to send out to everyone. And so I just sent one to you via Amazon because it was
I appreciate it.
fastest way to get you one. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely those hardcovers are like I'd always kind of liked the dust cover hardcovers more. but after getting in the naked hardcover, I really like it. And I think I might be getting to where I'm going to be a naked hardcover kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like, I like the way it looks, and it's not something I normally used to get. But yeah, I have like 42 pre-orders. You can also order the ebook on Amazon. It's not quite as cool. My dog Rowena, Lamia wants to know if Rowena will be signing the books as well. Roro, we'll ask her. Come here, Roro.
Yeah.
Come here. Are you going to sign the books?
Wow,
That's
she looks nearly just like my dog that we have outside. We have a half German Shepherd, half Lab, and she's solid black. Her name's Lily.
Yeah, Ro is a Border Collie Lab mix.
Okay.
So she kind of has the Border Collie, so a lot of the Border Collie features, but she's straight black, like a. I will attempt to get Rowena to do a paw print for you, Lamia.
Heck yeah.
Oh, you were talking about how a lot of the people around you don't read that much, which definitely isn't the case with me. But my wife reads more of the paranormal romance or like some shifter romance, things like that. So she was telling me, whenever I was telling her about the story, she was kind of saying like, you could make them dragon shifters. And I said, no, I don't want to make them dragon shifters. Then my editor had said that I used the like he hissed too many times. She's like, people don't hiss. And so I was trying to take some of those out. And my wife said, dragons hiss. You could make them dragon shifters, and then they could hiss all they want.
Yeah.
So in her mind, my characters are all dragons.
Okay.
And so, like, as far as she's concerned, they're actually dragons, and I just haven't said anything about it in the books yet. So anyone who out there who reads it, you can decide that for yourself. Are they dragons? Are they just people? It really is all down to the way you read the story.
I mean, is there a book that has dragons that's not good? I mean,
yes.
Oh, okay.
Would
that be
every book
like
my wife
Fourthling?
has read? No, I'm just kidding. She just gave me. She glared at me from across the room. So I get very, very bored with the Dragon Rider books after a while, just because there's been so many of them, and they're all Dragon Rider books. And so I sometimes get kind of like another Dragon Rider book. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to write dragons just because I feel like there's enough dragon books.
Mm-hmm.
I'll write something different.
That's actually one thing I've never read any that I can think of anything to do with dragons in a book yet. Now, I've got like all of like Ryan Cahill's books over here that I'm going to start in January, and I know it's huge about dragons.
And I read the first one of that, and I liked it. But I'd say definitely, yeah, there's so many dragon books out there that sometimes I get kind of like, oof, so many dragons. Audrey has said that Jen's liver hasn't been destroyed because she's part dragon. Audrey has this thing about how she thinks Jen drinks too much wine.
What? No.
Yeah, I know. I think Jen drinks just the correct amount of wine.
She reminds me in a different way that I'm actually reading Oathbringer right now, Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight. It's book 3. And in it, Shalon is pretending to be somebody else, and she drinks a ton, but then she just heals herself with Stormlight. So it like takes all of her being drunk away and everything. So, except obviously Jen can just drink.
I have not read an incredible amount of Sanderson. I read Mistborn and it was fine. I read Tress of the Emerald Sea and it was fine. I read the book that everyone hates that I actually really enjoyed, the Traveler's Guide to Middle English, or to
Oh, is
medieval
it the
England. Or
wizard the
yeah,
wizard
I
guy?
actually really had fun with that one.
I've not touched it.
And that's one that everyone was kind of like, "Oh, it's not that good. It's not
It's
as
not
good."
part of the Cosmere. That's why.
It's no, but I mean, it was fun. Like, it was
Yeah,
it like the greatest book to ever exist? No, but did I have
yeah,
fun with it? Sure. I
yeah.
have Way of Kings on audiobook, and I've listened to the first like hour, and
Okay.
it's like that's gonna take a long time to get through.
Yes. It took me, and I've said this in several of my videos too, 500 pages to figure that book out to be like, is this even worth reading? Like I've read all of Miss Bourne and all of it. Like I've worked through everything. I've got like 4 books left to get to Wind and Truth at the end of the year. But um The Way of Kings, it's like 500 pages. And I'm like, should I have to read 500 pages to start liking a book? But then I don't know, everything clicked after that. And the ending, all of it from there on, I loved. And then Words of Radiance is probably the best book I've read by far this year. I mean, it's incredible in my opinion, but that's everybody's different. I know several people that don't care nothing about the way he writes at
I
all.
mean, I think he's a good writer. I think for me, I struggle with trying to get through the first
Yeah.
500 pages, or even the first,
Yeah.
like if the first 100 pages are a slog,
Hmm.
that kind of
Yeah.
puts me in the do I really want to keep reading this book that I'm not enjoying after the
Yeah.
first 50 to 100 pages? Some other character had a question. Which was what were some books that were influential to me and getting me to write. So I'm going to answer that with the fantasy version because I think that there were definitely some books that I read and thought I would love to write characters like those. So Kings of the Wild and Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. Were 2 books that I absolutely loved. They had some wit and some humor, while still like high stakes. And Kings of the Wild is just an amazing book with these sort of over the hill mercenaries getting back together for one last adventure, and I absolutely loved that. Bloody Rose was good. I didn't like it quite as much, but I still really enjoyed it. And then Michael J. Sullivan's Riria Revelation series, Royce and Hadrian and all their banter. And there's a lot of good stuff in that as well. I really enjoyed the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft as well. Like there's
Okay.
Senlin Ascends is the first one in that series. And really enjoyed the world building and sort of the absurdity of that series. And then I think Lies of Loch Lamora.
Oh,
Just
yes.
like that is the perfect example of book that is both hilarious and so freaking dark.
Have
And
you listened to it on audiobook?
I read Lies of Loch Lamora on paper in the book
Yeah.
form, but I listened to Red Skies and
Okay.
Republic of Thieves on audiobook.
I've not done or read the second and third one. I've did Liza Loch Lamora and did a lot of it on audio and kind of did immersive reading. That book is so good.
It's one of my favorite books,
Man.
and I think like with me writing, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna rewrite Lies of Loch Lamora,
Yeah.
but I was definitely like, I like that this sort of the idea of characters who are funny, but maybe the things around them that are happening are not always funny.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it Baez? Is that the old man that takes him in?
Baez is from the what's it called? Abercrombie, First Law.
That's right. That's
But
right.
which is another good one that has like
Yep.
humor and a very dark.
Yes.
But no, that is Father Chains, who I love.
Chains.
Father
That's
Chains
it.
is
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. Yes. He is so coming off like so brutally mean to them whenever they were young. Him and the Jacques and then the twins. But man, just the way he talked, especially the audiobook of it, if you go back and
and I've heard
so
like in
good.
the other two books, he makes a lot of appearances because they do the flashbacks, and yeah, the narrator's amazing in those.
Let's see. All right, person I have. Well, I'm just trying to go through basically and do it. I feel like I'm so far behind far as book reading that it's obviously, I mean, you never catch up, because there's always something coming out, but it just, and then when you watch all the YouTube videos, it's just constantly, oh, this book's great. Put it on your TV or this, and then you have 500 books on it.
Well, Rowdy, you're beating Lamia actually because she's only like 2 chapters into Envoys, and you finished the book, so like
really?
you're just better. Like,
well, I mean,
got work to
I
do.
won't do like, was it Nick that took what, like a month and a half to give you a review on Goodreads? Like, no.
So Nick, he read the book whenever he was on his honeymoon, and he sent me a message like a few weeks ago telling me, how much he liked the book and how he would have a review out soon. And then he sent me a message a few days later and was like, oh yeah, I forgot that I need to do these other reviews first, or like I have to do these other reviews too. Like, and I said, yeah, just, you read those books first, do those first. So
Yeah.
he did those first, and then we kind of just been like joking about how, one of these days maybe a review would come out, and today was that day. It was a great review. You can check it out on
Excellent.
Nick A. Writes on Twitter, or NJ Alexander, his website. His book Fogbound is a lot of fun. If you haven't read that one, add that to your TBR.
Okay. Is that the one that you had said that he has said that he's got like 4 of them already wrote, but it's really not.
So basically, and he would be someone that if you ever do more interviews, Nick's a great interview.
Okay.
But he'll tell you the full story, but like he wrote the entire series like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, like, and he had self-published at least the first book, maybe the entire series back at that time. And then he kind of looked at it again, was like, ooh, these are not very good. And he rewrote and fixed up the first book and did a lot of work on Fogbound and publish that. And so now he's going through the others and kind of doing the same thing. If he knows the story and the plot and the characters, but he's kind of reworking them to make them, just to fix them up. But he has written them already. So I was joking on the other show that he had said he'd written them, and he actually just had the word "the fog has lifted," and that was the entire. That was all of book 2. And he's written them all. He's going through, and like I think he'd said the second one might be in betas right now.
Okay,
but
that's cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to go check it out then. I had looked, and I think I've friended like all of your, I guess, secret scribes people, because a lot of their books sound really good.
Yeah, we've got a really cool crew of people. We've got in the chat tonight, Alex and Lamia are here. And then, so Alex wrote The Audalic Stone, which is a really fun YA fantasy adventure. Lamia's Wingspan of Treason is a giant chonker. We've got Bill Adams, who The Tenacious Tale of Tanner the Tender Sword. You've got kids. I don't know how old they are, but it's middle grade, and it is one of the best books I've read this year.
Okay.
And it's like it has a peg leg rooster, and the peg leg has a sword on the end of it. Like, it's amazing. And then he also wrote an epic chonker called The God's Blood Tragedy. And then Greg G.J. Terrell, his second book, Bloodbound, is almost out. Bloodwoven was a great first book, sort of sword and sorcery. And then that's our US people. In the UK, we've got R.A. Sandpiper, who her first 2 books are out now, and the best romantasy I've read. Promise of Blood is the new one. Pocket of Lies is the first one there. Bella Dunn writes more of the urban romantic fantasy. Her book, The Dreams Thief, was like I read it in a day and a half. Like I destroyed it.
Okay.
And then L.M. Douglas, Garantia's Guardian, Garantia's Fury. She's awesome. I loved Garantia's Guardian. And I'm going to read Garantia's Fury soon. R.E. Sanders and Sean O'Boyle, Demon's Tear, The Ballad of Spricket the Bard, E.H. Bradley, The Ranger, Tom Bookbeard, The Corsair, which hasn't come out yet. I think that's everyone. I always forget somebody. We'll see.
Okay.
And then me, Dave Lawson, The Envoys of War.
Envoys of War. All right, do you want to grab this one?
Sure. So it's one of those things where I definitely, everything I wrote until this thing right here, this book, was not fantasy. I have a master's degree in fiction writing. I got an MFA. I forgot Damian Francis, the Toma Karen. He's our Aussie. He's the one who's not British Isles or US. But I wrote a lot of lit fic. I wrote short stories and a novella. It was all literary fiction, contemporary. I'd never actually written a fantasy book, but I growing up, I read a lot of sci-fi and some fantasy, and then I've read a lot of fantasy in the last 10-ish years. And just this year, I started reading indie fantasy, and I honestly have had so much more fun with indie fantasy than I did with a lot of the traditionally published fantasy. Obviously, there are those like the amazing books like Abercrombie, Lynch, Sanderson, I'm sure, some of these other great authors, and they write fantastic books. But a lot of the like new traditionally published books, I've kind of been like, meh. And I've read some amazing indie books where it's kind of like people can write what they're passionate about instead of what is currently most marketable. And so the books that I'm looking for are something you can find. Whereas if like the thing that I enjoy, like sort of shenanigans filled fantasy adventure type stories, and that might not always be the most marketable option, but you can find those in indie because you've got the people who love that writing that, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it seems like you've got so much more freedom, and do whatever you want. You're going to find an audience for it, because someone's looking for something at all times, and doing the traditional, it feels like there's a whole lot of, unless you're just huge, like kind of like what you said, like Abercrombie and Sanderson or whatever, you can get away with a lot more stuff. But
they can write what they want at this point because
they're going to sell.
But if you're first just trying to get started out, if what you're writing is not what the market wants at that moment, you're not going to find the readers.
Did you just move her recording?
No, I know you live in the UK, but you were in the chat, so I mentioned you first. You can change release dates more often as a indie person. I changed my release date 3 times as well. I think Lamy has also done that because I originally didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I had said, "Oh yeah, it'll come out in like June, whatever." Yeah. And then I got through like the first round of betas and thought, it's not coming out in June. I've got some work to do.
I think I'd seen where maybe she posted today or whatever, that it looked like she did a post on Twitter from like a year ago that it was coming out the fall of last year.
Yeah.
And it's moved. So.
She's taken her time.
Hey, I don't blame her. If you can
For
do
months,
that.
I was just like, give me this arc. And she'd be like,
Yep. That's awesome. Oh, well, let's see. What else questions? Oh, do you have any other projects you're working on right now besides Envoys?
So
You're done, but
I have my novella, which has a name, and I have announced the name, so I am able to say that out loud. It is called The Pawns of Havoc.
oh, okay.
So basically, taking on the same the this of that, The
Yes.
Pawns of Havoc. It is my Cork novella. He is, I mean, so in Envoys, he is a mercenary. In this, he is a young mercenary, and he and two other mercenaries take a job that promises to be more difficult than they expected. And I just got like I'm in the process of getting the final, like I've booked a cover and I've gotten back the things and I've sent back my requests and they've sent back the revisions, and I think I'm probably about ready to be like, yes, it's done,
Yeah.
but we're still working through it. But Lamia has seen what I have so far, and
I'm fixing to say, like, I bet she's seen it then.
it's a I like it. It's got a different scope than Envoys in that the characters are facing away and there's a little bit more of the landscape style thing. But my Cork novella, I've written about half of it at this point. And really just like getting the cover was kind of like my way of making myself sit down and finish it, because I've been exhausted and trying to get this book out, and then I'm a teacher and a theater director and all the things, just like
How do
trying
you
to
even
find the time.
how do you even find time to write?
Well, I
Just
mean, the way I did it last year was like I'd get home from musical rehearsal
yeah.
and I would write my 1,000 words and then go to bed. And on the weekends, I would
Wow.
write 2,000 words a day and then I'd go to bed. And I think it was not a sustainable method long term, because I needed to take more breaks, probably in terms of like not getting burnt out. But
Yeah.
I've written some recently on a short story as well, about so in Envoys, the seas are only traversable with mage captains who are able to calm the waters with their water magic, and so people can't sail without that because the seas are too rough. And I'm writing a short story about a mage captain, completely unrelated to any of the storylines and any of the other things, just like a mage captain. Maybe might have some pirates. I don't know. I'm still working on that. But I've written like 600 words of that for our Secret Scribes anthology that a lot of us are writing short stories for. So I've started working on that one. I'm actually thinking that the main character's nemesis is going to be named Shalix Aurman.
Okay.
So basically Alex, but like his evil twin.
Shallots.
And like he's gonna sink to the bottom of the ocean at the end of it.
Okay. Now, now Cork is in the book is a win, right? Is that the
So yes, the win are the for people in the watching who have not read the book. What are you doing? Read the book. But also, the win are the people who live on an island to the west of the continent of Sarkhan, and it is a mage stronghold, and a lot of them are more powerful mages than elsewhere, and they have some oddities. They don't act like the other people. And Cork is his mother was Win, and so he is Win adjacent, sort of like he is Win, but he's also not quite the full thing. And that's one of the things that I'll be exploring I am exploring in
Okay.
the novella.
That's what I was curious because the way you wrote them, they are so mysterious. It's like I feel like you could really go into just how I don't know, they really intrigued me.
And
Go,
I really like them too because basically, and one of the things that my way of thinking about characters, I feel like saying the people who are good versus the people who are bad is really difficult to do. And like the good nation versus the bad nation, like there's not one nation that is evil and one nation that is good, and we only want the good nation to win. So
yeah,
like as far as I'm concerned, there are the characters who are my main characters who like we're rooting for them because they're the protagonists, but the whole like I don't want it to be like this nation is who everyone wants to win because they think this nation is full of good people, because all of the nations are full of bad people.
yeah,
Every nation is full of a bunch of corruption. And I mean, this is the same in our world now. Like there's corruption. People are, as Corden would say, bastards.
yeah,
There's not like this one, like, oh, this is the perfect nation that must win
yeah,
everything. Like people are bastards. And so the Win are kind of like they're weird, and at the same time they could be like incredibly ominous, but they
yeah,
also can be very helpful depending on like the situation. So I like that kind of they could be whoever, like they could be the villains of a story or be
yeah,
like someone who helps out just based on, you know, what is the thing the characters are looking for, because they care about mages.
yeah. Yeah, they definitely felt like you could definitely put them in either situation because it seemed like on like some part of the story, not giving anything away, is like they'll help in this situation, but not in this one, even though they're not super different, but they're slightly enough to where it's like, no, we're not helping you. But like whenever they're going off the
Yeah.
water, you
And
know,
like I feel like my characters, Jen will help her friends, but I don't know if she's just like incredibly worried about going and like saving nations for, you know, national pride. And
yeah,
like Cork and someone else, they'll help their friends, but they're not just like I am a good person who only does what's right. They're like, I'll do what I need to do so that my friends and I can be, you know, as safe as possible.
yeah,
And I like that, just like maybe not morally gray, because I don't know if all the characters are quite that gray, but like I like
yeah,
characters in situations where it's not just good versus evil.
yeah. Yeah, like a Tobias to me, which he is so evil at some points, and then it feels like he might do a turn, but you don't know. And then he's so conflicted on certain things
And I
that
feel like
it's
that's how people are, even people who are consumed by revenge or
yeah,
um, consumed by like desire to do something in general, unless they are just a complete psychopath. They have a lot of good parts of them and people they care about. An example, if you've ever seen the Daredevil series on Netflix,
I
um,
watched a couple episodes.
and like the series wasn't that good, but Vincent D'Onofrio played Wilson Fisk and was absolutely brilliant at like being just this rage filled terrible person who murdered someone, and then like you see like another scene where you get like the full, like you see the emotion and you kind of start to feel for him and like
Yeah,
him in the scene, and then like just this whole kind of like people who do bad things often have good qualities as well. And so I like that sort of, there's not characters who are just good and just bad. Like people are people, and they're all bastards at sometimes and they're all good at sometimes.
yeah. It felt like to me like Topper was his like moral compass in a way. It's kind of like, don't do anything awful, even though it's bad. If he wasn't there, it felt like he would do something really terrible at all
So
times.
the funny thing about Topper, and for people who haven't read the book, Topper is Tobias's godson. In early drafts and even in the beta draft, Topper was just like this sort of random street urchin henchman kid who did what Tobias said and was just like, okay, boss. And I think I had Rach, R.A. Sandpiper, and Audrey, who's in the chat here, both said things along the lines of like, Topper's just kind of a plot device right now. Like, he's not, what's the point of him being there? Like, I like the idea of, but why? What does he matter? And so whenever I went back and revised, I added in a lot to give Topper some character and to make him into someone who matters. And like, and I rewrote a lot of things, and like, Topper went from being he wasn't his uncle. He was just a random kid, but basically he went from being just a random kid to actually being a character who had a reason to be doing things. And Avelia, who was one of the other characters, went from sobbing, crying girl to character with motivations and reasons for doing things. And like basically some of the, I think Corden and Jen and Tobias all were pretty fleshed out in the early drafts, but some of the other smaller characters were just kind of like, this is a character and they're here, they exist in order to make this thing happen and push the story forward. And they didn't quite have the character development in those early drafts. And that's one of the things I went back and tried to add in to make all of the characters as well-rounded as possible.
Her hitting Corden with the lute or guitar, whatever it is, over the head, that was great. That scene. I loved that.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta hit someone over the head with a musical instrument.
Like, yes. Where did you come up with the water magic in this book? Because it is pretty interesting to me.
So it's funny because like I've had people say things like, it's kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I've seen that show before, like a few episodes here and there. And I know they like can bend water, and like, then there's other people who bend fire, I guess, and bend earth, and like bend, is it air? I don't remember. I think so. And I guess like I've seen it, but I think whenever I was doing it, I kind of thought I didn't want to do the traditional, all of the different elements all have their own magic, and there's different people who wield this element and different people who wield this element, because it just kind of seemed like it had been done so many times. And the same with like the shadow magic type thing. I felt like it's been done a lot. I want to try to come up with something a little that could be kind of different, while still, there's not that many new different things you can do with, elemental magic in general.
Yeah.
But what I did was I took water magic, and then I just kind of thought like, water's in everything. Yep. So there's a lot of stuff you can do if you can use water and do things like turn it into ice or warm it up or create things out of it that you can then pull to different places. Or I think the whole idea of the seas, that was a pretty early on thing where I hadn't really figured out all of the aspects of the water magic in terms of like what mages could do on land. But the whole idea of like the only way to traverse the seas was if you had mages to calm the seas and push the
Yeah.
ships forward through. And I loved that idea because it just seemed like a really cool little tidbit to me in the
Yeah.
early like sort of world building stage, and just had so much fun like taking it and being like, what other crazy things could I do? There was one point where in the early drafts where I had one of the bad guys like compel other characters to do things. And it was, and people are like, this doesn't quite fit within the
Yeah.
water magic. Where did this come from? I was like, well, I wanted him to do that because it fit in with the story in
Yeah.
a good way,
It
but I
just
can't really
works.
figure out how to. So I took that out.
Yeah.
Like the
The
main bad
water.
guy in early drafts was able to like compel Corden to like stab Tobias in a scene, and like it was great drama, but it
Yeah.
didn't really fit in with the world building, so I had to cut that scene.
The water and the brain thing got me like that. How do you even think about something like that? Like I never would have just, shake it up and then they just basically go unconscious. Like that's it.
I
You're
mean,
done.
there's water in there.
Well, I mean, that's true. And then is it Marston? I guess that what he does to Jen.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was one of
at the
my
that
favorite
that
moments
was
there.
cool.
And guys, you'll have to read the book to see
Yeah,
what happens to Jen.
yeah.
But there's a moment that I had a lot of fun writing that.
That was an awesome scene. I'll say that. I really enjoyed that. So, what? Trying to change a little. So, what are you reading right now, if anything?
So I am currently reading A Promise of Blood by R.A. Sandpiper. It is a slow burn romantasy, very dark. I will say a lot of people who are not normally romantasy readers have read it and loved it. Like I am not one. Andy Peliquin, who's a pretty well-known indie author, just read the series. He just dropped a review of it yesterday.
I've seen
Ed
that.
Crocker, who's another reviewer, has read it and loved it. It is so freaking good. And Rach is an amazing writer, and she's doing some big things. And like she's getting, like she's at over 250 ratings on Goodreads now for
wow.
Pocket of Lies, and it's been out since August. So, or maybe it was May. I don't remember. But
I'd
like
seen where
she's doing a great job.
I'd seen where Andy had posted the review, and then I think it was Ed that may have asked. He's like, "You're already done with it?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "I finished the first one and went immediately to the second one and knocked it
And
out."
I didn't have the ability to do that because
Yeah.
when I finished the first one, I read it as an arc, and the second one hadn't come out yet. But I just read The Ranger by E.H. Bradley, which had some good old school sort of hobbitish fantasy vibes and so much ale. Like you talk about Jen with wine, like the characters in Eamon's book, like I think there were 2 chapters where they didn't drink ale out of the whole thing. Maybe like there was a lot of ale. And then I'm about to read Bloodbound by G.J. Terrell and Wingspan of Treason by Lamia Bayan. I think I'm also reading currently off and on. Let me gotta look at my. So I've been reading Third Lock from the Sun by Rex Burke, which is a sort of like contemporary Scottish sci-fi adventure, like set in modern times in Scotland. And it's sort of like it's been fun so far. I'm about halfway through that. And I've read about 20% of a book by Justin Greer because I read one of his novellas. I'm a judge for Sphinx, which is the sci-fi fantasy like novella contest. The Secret Scribes joined that as judges, and I read the novella as a judge for that. And then I started reading the actual novel, and I had to look up the name of it because I was going to call it the wrong thing, because like the novella was Leaf, Dust, and Deadwood.
Okay.
And the novel is Tangleweed and Waterbloom, and I was going to call it Leaf, Dust, and Waterbloom, which should be a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
But been reading those and listening to the Dungeon Crawler Carl series.
Oh, yes.
And like I have about an hour left of Butcher's Masquerade, and then I'll be straight into the sixth one. And I had not ever gotten into those until like last month, because lit RPG has just not been my thing.
Yeah.
But I love Donut and I love Mongo.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I've, Carl started out kind of like a little bit basic and everything, kind of like, Carl's fine, but he's not. But like he's really grown on me the last like 2 books, and God, that's just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do whenever I finish Eye of the Bedlam Bride after this one. But
I've listened to the first 2 on audiobook, and that's as far as I've got so far. I actually have a buddy that I recommended them to, and he went out and bought all 6 of them on Audible audiobook, and has listened to all 6 of them 3 times back to back to back, just constant. He absolutely loves the series. And it's fantastic. Like,
and I'm kind of like, do I like lit RPG now, or do I just like Dungeon Crawler Carl? Because I tried to listen to another one whenever I was like, I'd finished book 4 Dungeon Crawler, and I thought, well, I'll try this other one. And I started listening. I'd seen a lot of people talking about, it's called like Battle Mage Farmer.
Okay.
And I started listening to it, and it just like, I was struggling, I think. And Audrey, who was here in the chat earlier, I don't know if she's still here or not, but she was telling me that you're not allowed to listen to it and be critical thinking, because it's sort of supposed to be kind of like, it wasn't, but like every sentence started like, standing, he walked to the door. Coughing, he opened the door. Something.
Oh, wow.
Like ing, he did this. Ing verb, he did this thing. Ing verb, they did this thing. Ing verb, they did. And I'm just like, all the sentences start the same. I can't do this.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I guess, starting, is it the Wandering Tower? Is that kind of like a lit RPG?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, it's like 13 million words long or something.
And that sounds like just
that's
too
crazy.
Much. I can't.
Kenneth had asked you a question. Let's see. Is one mage captain powerful enough to control the sea around them, or do they have assistants?
So, in my headcanon, one mage captain is enough to control the sea within like a small area, to where like a mage captain can compel their ship forward if you want to go faster, or like have a smoother overall ride. Having more than one mage is gonna help it to be something that, if you have 3 mages on your ship, you might be able to push it faster than if you just have the one. But one is enough to get you across to where you're trying to go.
See, some other character asked, starting a Lovecraft story tomorrow, my first one. I've never read anything of Lovecraft. Have you?
I did in college, but I don't really remember it.
I'm not a horror person at all. Like,
I'm not either.
No, my stepmom got me away from that when I was a kid. She would make us sit down and we would watch all the like Freddy Krueger and Friday the 13th movies whenever. God, how old was I? 10 or 11. Like, she loved horror movies, and it was just like, nope, you got to sit here and watch it. And whew, I can't stand them now. They ain't for me.
Yeah, it is. It's not my thing at all. I think I would much rather laugh, or like fall in love with the characters and like really root for them, than be in a situation where it's like, wondering the whole time if they're all going to get murdered or all going to
Yeah.
die, or like I have never been a horror movie type person. When I was a little kid, I used to have to leave class at school and go to the library to read whenever we watched movies, sometimes even like some of the Disney movies, because I would get like sad whenever bad things happen to the characters,
Ah, yeah,
because I would just emotionally get too connected to the characters.
yeah,
And I think as I read, I'm still kind of like that. If I'm reading a book, and the character I really like dies, or you're reading something and it's like, well, I know this has a sad ending that I'm not going to like. It's harder for me to get through those sometimes because I know like that it's going to be something that's going to make me kind of emotionally affected, and I don't love that. I like a good, doesn't have to be a happy ending, but I don't like the whole like, you know, Bambi's fine. Like I can deal with that. But the thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to read this entire book, and guess what? The main character dies at the end of it. And it's just like, okay. Sometimes like, what's the point?
yeah,
If that's all, like, sure, characters die, and sometimes main characters die. But I know like the Divergent series, which I didn't, I think I read the first book. I knew I'd heard that like in one of the later books, the main character who like is the narrator, just like she dies, and it's like, oh, she's dead. And they have a little like, hopefully that's not a spoiler for anyone who hasn't read that book that came out 20 years ago or whatever. But
is there a movie? Is there one or two
I think
movies of
there's a
those?
movie series as well. But it's
Okay,
just
yeah,
like
I think I've seen
that
those.
to me, I'm just like, okay, I'm not really that interested in like investing time
Yeah.
in this 4-book series whenever I know that it's just going to end with the main character dying.
Have you read any of the Discworld books? Great Dad Humor, High Level Punnery.
So I was talking with Chris, the Bearded Book Beast, about Pratchett a little bit whenever I was on his show last weekend, where like sometimes for someone who I like funny stuff, but I struggle sometimes whenever it's just comedy.
Yeah.
I like it to be more like there are high stakes and there are things happening that are not funny, but there are humorous moments within it. And I've struggled with Pratchett to some extent. Like, he's a good writer and he's funny, but I don't always get very invested in the characters in the story.
Yeah.
And I feel like I need to be invested in the story. There's a fly just parked right on top of the webcam. I need to be invested in the characters and like kind of like feel like I know them and like them or have feelings about them. And Pratchett, sometimes it's funny, but I need more.
Yeah. I started Small Gods. I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And might have read 10 or 15 pages. And I don't know, I couldn't get into it. It wasn't for me. I know a lot of people say that, what is it, like guards, stuff like that's supposed to
I've
be
read that
good.
one, and it
Isn't it?
wasn't bad.
Okay. Maybe I'll try it because I know a lot of people love Pratchett. And first book just didn't hit for me, which I mean, he's got what, like 42 in the Discworld
A lot.
series,
And
I
I've
think. That's
read, I think
crazy.
I've probably read like 5 or 6 of his books, and I wouldn't say that I hate them, but I also am not jumping to read more. Now, like an example of a book that was definitely comedy, but I really enjoyed it was The Ballad of Spricket the Bard by Sean O'Boyle, where that was one where I'd say like the first 15 to 20% is very much like, this is humor, this is humorous, this is humorous, this is humorous. And then you start getting into like some backstory, and you get that emotional connection and the like character development, and you start to like understand why the characters are the way they are. And I was just like, Yes.
I was fixing to say, I think I have that. I do. I have that on my Kindle. So I will definitely have to give that a shot then.
I think Sean has marketed it as kind of like Pratchett plus Lies of Locke Lamora. Not as dark
Okay.
as Locke Lamora, but
Yeah.
it has that it has some Pratchett-y humor, but like underneath it there's really some good like emotional, like there's emotional backstory, and like, oh man, whenever he gets to the parts that are like jumping into the past of why Sprickett is the way he is, it's just like hits you hard for a funny book.
Yeah. I'll definitely have to check that out then, because it doesn't, that it sounds really good. I had read, have you heard, like speaking of bards, like a death metal bard? Have you heard of it?
Yeah, that's one I'd like to read.
Oh,
I would have signed up for an arc of it because like it sounded amazing, but I've just been
it is. Rob
packed.
sent me one and I reviewed it. Oh man, it is good. Like him coming up with even like there's lyrics in it where
Mhm.
whenever the bard's playing, and they're actually really good too. So that always amazes me. Like I've seen a couple of books um, that are kind of like you'll play like music, and then like the author actually comes up with lyrics with them that actually makes sense.
Mhm.
Like that's pretty good. I like in yours, like the inner monologue of all the characters. I really enjoyed that. That was
Yeah,
really awesome.
I in general I like it when characters think because I feel like
Yeah.
it brings us closer to like who they are because people are constantly thinking and
Mm,
having that inner monologue. And like I didn't write songs in this book, but Corden has his poems.
yeah.
um and I had a lot of fun writing those, and I've definitely written stories with songs because like some of my I was big into punk and emo music whenever I was
Oh,
growing up, and like emo before the like before all of the it became like the big popular thing. Like I was listening in like the late 90s and early 2000s
okay.
before the big like I still like some of the bands from when it got popular, but I was really into it a little bit before the fashion
Yeah.
connection to emo. But
I I was too.
I wrote some stories with like I wrote a story about an emo band, and I wrote all of the lyrics in that,
Oh
and one where
wow.
like characters went to a punk concert and I wrote all the lyrics, and like I play guitar and used to play shows and wrote my own songs, and did like singer songwriter
That's cool.
punk acoustic punk basically
Yeah.
is what I played. Um but yeah, I love music, and I do want to read Death Metal Bard, but I haven't had time to
Yeah.
devote,
Yeah.
and there are already other arcs that I've signed up for, and I've been like, ooh, I need to get around to that one.
Uh-huh. It's like they never end. Like you look, like there's two of them that pop up every day. Um,
There's so many. And Envoys of War the
music.
musical, I could write it. I direct musicals and I write
Yeah.
songs.
Was you
But
talking triple B's? Was it the you're going to get Corden to is it annotate
oh yeah, I'm
what
doing
the
that.
scene he's not in?
It
That is
is
a
a
great
an ARC
idea.
reader exclusive
Yeah.
giveaway where I'm going to annotate a copy from Corden's perspective and then draw
Yes.
um, a one of my ARC readers, and they will get that annotated Corden copy.
That's
So
fantastic.
that'll be fun. I have the book now to annotate, so I just that'll be something that I do probably once I finish all of my um, drama related things and get my performances out of the way over the next week for my theater teaching, and then also get this book released.
Yeah. I've got I only got two questions left, but I've got one thing I want to say. There's page 95 in your book, the very last that that sentence you had. made me laugh out loud. It was so funny to me. If you're looking it up, man,
So that would be
I
it. Wouldn't do
died.
if either of us had any talent.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
I I love a good snide remark.
yeah. It's so funny. All right, the only two I got left. What is your favorite book? Like just total best book you've ever read?
My favorite book. Got it right here.
The Count of Monte Cristo.
Count of
That
Monte
is a
Cristo. Um,
nice
got
addition.
a. My wife got me this copy a few years ago now. But basically, growing up, that was my older brother and I read it both several times. I just feel like it has the best plot of any book ever. It is so
Yeah,
intricate, but like everything um, comes together in just like these mind blowing ways where you read it and you're just like, how in the world did that, like, over the last like 500 pages, this has been like marinating and
yeah.
you didn't even think about it, and then it just shows up in this way that just was mind blowing. But like, I love that book. It was actually at my wedding. So I'm gluten free. I have celiac disease, so I can't eat gluten at all. My wife is not gluten free, so our wedding cake was not gluten free for
You didn't
her
get
and the
any?
rest of the guests, and I had a little groom's cake, basically, that was the gluten-free cake for my mom
Yeah.
and me, because my mom is also
Okay.
gluten-free. And my little groom's cake was designed to be a hardcover copy of the Count of Monte Cristo.
That's awesome.
I'll have to post that on Twitter or something,
Yeah.
because it's just like, it was so cool. Like, they says the Count of Monte Cristo on it, and it had the like gold sprayed edges on the side of it and everything. It was very cool. So yeah,
Here's what my wife made for me, or well, got it done today. Sorry for the light. You can
I
read
can't
it. Yeah.
can't really see it.
Oh,
It's too bright.
there we go. Maybe that's better.
It.
That's Smoky, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. My groom's cake was I think it was a Xbox actually. I think that's what it was. So that's all I did back in the day when I had more time. When
You
you get
used to be
kids,
a
all
Twitch
that stuff.
streamer.
No, I actually never did any of that. I started I think 2 years ago. I was gonna do a little gaming on YouTube, and I think I put up like 5 or 10 videos, and then I realized it's just way too much work and it takes way too long to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, because I don't get but like 3 to 4, well, probably 4 hours at home every other day because I drive and I'm gone overnight. And then whenever I get home, then trying to spend time with family and get back up and do it again. So that's how I get to get a lot of books done, especially on Audible or audio books. It's no, otherwise I'd never get anything read. I just don't have the time to do it.
Yeah, my school is about 45 minutes away from where I live, so
Yeah.
I get a good hour and a half at least of audiobooks a day driving
I
to
get
and from
10,
work. Yeah.
10 hours one way.
Oof.
Now I can't listen for 10 straight up. There's no way. Like
Yeah.
2 to 3 at a time is about max for me, and then I need a break. It's just too much. So I probably do probably 3 to 5 hours a day on audio books. But
Well, I've booked a narrator, and
okay.
I'm gonna get my first little like 15-minute thing by the end of this month, and then should get the full book recording by the end of the year. So the hope is for that to come out sometime next spring. But
Sweet.
that's exciting for the people who are the more audiobooky in terms of like,
Yeah.
that's the way that's faster, easier to read books. But I'm excited for that. The narrator has the perfect voice for Corden. Like, it is
Oh,
just,
what you did for, I think it was
and
a
it's pretty
and
similar
balding.
to what I kind
Oh
of
man, so good. That's awesome.
but I mean, I do teach acting, so
Yeah. Yeah. That's when you so you do drama real quick, and then I'll ask the last question. You know the
I'm an
big
English teacher,
oh,
but I teach one section of drama at the end
wonder.
of the day.
Okay.
That's mostly we do a one-act musical, a one-act play in the fall for competition, and
Yeah.
we do a musical in the spring for the community.
Okay. That's all. We had I remember whenever I was in drama, I did it for 2 years, and I think it's my sophomore and senior year. And it was we did I guess it was called the appreciation days, where we all did like little skits and stuff.
Mhm.
And have you seen the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Okay, I've not seen it yet, but I've seen all the others. They're all great. But you know how everything's going crazy about "Bye Bye Bye" in sync.
Hmm.
That song was a massive hit when we were in school
Yes,
because
it
we're so the
was.
same age. I actually did. There was 5 of us that we were all at dressed up and did the NSYNC, did the whole singing, dancing, all of it in front of everybody. It had never been done like where you go like we always did it like once and that was it at the
Right.
appreciation day. After we did that, we ended up going to 3 schools to perform it like that year. It was the
Oh,
craziest thing ever.
did you graduate in 2003?
Yeah, I did.
Same here. Yeah,
No. Oh
21
yeah.
years ago.
It's crazy. Like feels like yesterday. Which I mean, you're in school every day now, so
Yeah.
it's almost like it never ended. So, all right, last question I got, and I'm gonna be selfish with it. What book would you recommend me to read?
Okay. So I'm gonna say from a standpoint of a book that I have read this year, one that I feel like is a really good book that hasn't gotten maybe the love overall that I think it deserves is a book called When the World Starts to Fray
Okay.
by Sam Parrish.
Okay.
And I'm going to give a second answer as well because I can't just do one.
No, that's fine.
Um, I'm going to give you three actually because
That's fine
have
too.
you read a necromancer called Gam Gam?
No, but I have talked to is it Adam? I think
Yeah,
Charper. Yes.
Adam. Yeah, that's a great. It's a good short one. It's like 110 pages.
Okay.
That's a really good short novella. And then for my Secret Scribes collective, I'm going to say the book that you should start out your Secret Scribes journey with post Envoys of
Yep.
War, obviously,
Yep.
is I think that you should read next The Balladist Forget the Bard by
Okay.
Sean Boyle.
That will not be a problem because I have it right here. So that will work. I will definitely do it.
And then you should read all the other Secret Scribes.
Yes, yeah. No, I definitely will be looking into all the other ones. Lamia's book sounds really interesting too. Like hers, I could throw it and shatter a window. So,
You
all
could
right.
definitely shatter a window with it.
Well, that's all I've got. Do you have anything you want to throw out?
So, Envoys of War comes out in 8 days. There are hardcovers, there are paperbacks, there are ebooks out there. And basically, I would love to have you as a reader. Love to connect with you on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, everything like that. Anyone here who is watching this because I sent them here who has not subscribed to Rowdy's channel, please do so. I've been watching his videos now for a few weeks, ever since he contacted me about a copy of Envoys, and he's got some awesome stuff on this channel and definitely deserves your subscription. So if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to his channel, go pre-order Envoys of War. Comes out in 8 days, and I'm
Woohoo.
just So excited.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. The replay will be up shortly.
All right.
See
Thank
ya.
you.